Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Why Excel Doesn't Work for Project Management, 7 Reasons to Ditch Your Spreadsheets. I'm Kim Wolf, Director of Marketing here at Redbooth. And in today's webinar, we're going to talk about how spreadsheets are great for some things, but how they fail miserably at project management. And we'll discuss the main reasons you should be ditching your spreadsheets and how you can track progress efficiently, centralize team data, and improve collaboration for all of your important projects. So this webinar is going to run about 25-30 minutes, and we'll leave time at the end for your questions. And I've got my colleague Diana here who will be moderating your questions. So if you have them at any time, feel free to type those into the GoToWebinar panel, and we'll answer them during the Q&A session. This session is being recorded, so don't worry if you miss something, or if you want to share this video with your colleagues, you'll receive the recording after the event. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So let's just jump into a brief history about Excel. Excel is a spreadsheet software developed by Microsoft that features calculation, graphing tools, pivot tables, and macros. And it was first introduced in 1985 and is now the industry standard for spreadsheets, and I'm sure you all are very familiar with it. And Excel provides a straightforward approach using cells, spreadsheets, and workbooks, which make it easy to use and understand. And it's mainly used for data analysis and number crunching. So it's not a surprise that some industries, such as accounting, investment banking, and management consulting, live in Excel. And now I want to take a quick audience poll. So just 1 second as I launch the poll here. All right, so we've got a pretty good range here, but again, it looks like the majority of you do use Excel or other spreadsheets to manage work projects either on a daily basis or a weekly basis. So it is, a big part of your workflow, a big part of your how you work with projects. So that's great. Okay, so let's go ahead and get back to the webinar. So it's clear that Excel and spreadsheets can be incredibly useful for certain tasks, but they're definitely not built for project management. And at first, tracking projects in spreadsheets seems like a great idea. They're crisp, they're clear, they're organized, and they've got a lot of appeal on day one. But as time goes on, they rapidly become less useful. And think about how you and your team use Excel right now at work. So maybe people forget to update the spreadsheet, so they quickly become obsolete. And maybe they inadvertently delete information or mess up a formula accidentally. Or maybe you've got dozens of sheets that are being emailed around, and no one really knows which one is the most up to date. Eventually, even the most thoughtfully color-coded spreadsheet, it usually ends up being a relic of a project management plan. And it's usually just a snapshot of the original version of the project, not a living document that evolves along with the project. So with that, I want to jump into the reasons why you shouldn't be using Excel for project management. One of the main reasons that Excel doesn't work for project management is that there's no team collaboration. It's not meant for collaboration, and in fact, it can get in the way of collaboration, preventing your team from delivering the best possible results. Spreadsheets intrinsically discourage collaboration. You're meant to work on them individually, and you can't have a discussion about the information in real time. So in other cases, only one person, like a project manager or a team lead, has access to the spreadsheet. So bottlenecks are inevitable. And this was a situation for Redbooth customer El Tiempo, which is the largest and most viewed news site in Colombia. And when we hear about cases like this, it can be frustrating for the whole team and not empowering whatsoever. Planning, forecasting, and project management in general involve lots of collaboration. So it's natural for team members to communicate, discuss things, make decisions, plan activities, change goals, alter deadlines, and more. And normally 2, 3, and even more departments are involved in that sharing process. So how can we give visibility and transparency to the team so that there are no miscommunications? And instead of spreadsheets, a good online project management tool will allow you to centralize data easily, keep one version of the truth, share information, and collaborate with colleagues wherever they are based. Another reason to ditch your spreadsheets is that you need to be able to track progress and understand the status of a project. And for that, you need a planning and scheduling tool, not a spreadsheet tool. A giant problem with spreadsheets is that you need to implement some kind of system to track how things are going. And typical ways to do this include having a status column, priority levels, percentage of completion, or more. And this is a very manual process. And if something changes, like a deadline slips or one of your key resources is unavailable, it's a pain to reflect this in the project plan. And experienced project managers know that things never really go according to plan. So they want to know as soon as something goes off track. And that way they can adjust the schedule and still meet their deadline. So project managers need to have confidence in their schedule so that they can reasonably predict the needs of their team and communicate with project stakeholders. So within the project management space, Gantt charts have emerged to fill the need of visualizing project progress. And Gantt charts allow you to link tasks together in a logical order so that you know which tasks need to be done before others can begin. And while you can create these in Excel, it's extremely time consuming. And plus you have to manually go in and update everything. So this is really tedious work. And there's always the risk of introducing errors in the process. Using an online Gantt chart software helps you visualize project progress easily. So with features like start dates and task dependencies, it's simple to create a picture of the resources that you need at each stage of your project and the timeframes expected for completion of each task or phase. So you can monitor project progress efficiently, you can catch any bottlenecks early, and you can correct them. So when you're choosing Gantt chart software, you should also look for a Gantt chart that updates and syncs automatically with the rest of your project management system. The next reason that spreadsheets make it difficult to manage projects is that you aren't able to have all the information in one place. So while you can track numerical data easily, you can't attach files or other key documents which are important to your project. Excel isn't designed to store files, annotations, conversations, and related information that are essential parts of project communication and collaboration. So let's say you're trying to build a website with an external contractor. You wouldn't be able to attach design files, logos, invoices of hours worked, or other important documents. And by using a project management tool instead of a spreadsheet, you can centralize all work and communications and your assets in one place. Another huge problem with spreadsheets is that they are error prone. Some people you work with might be Excel gurus, and others may not be as technologically savvy. So as a result, you can have duplicated or missing information, or even worse, formula errors. So think your team's spreadsheets are perfect? Well, think again. According to the financial modeling training firm F1F9, as many as 88% of all spreadsheets contain errors, while 50% of spreadsheets used by large companies have material defects. I mean, 88%, that's huge. And when people alter a spreadsheet and email it to one another, vital information may be lost between the versions. So if your team members modify the spreadsheet to suit their own unique needs, they could potentially create hidden formula inaccuracies in subsequent iterations. So version control errors often result in conflicting data, leading to missed deadlines and poor business decisions. And according to that same study, on average, erroneous cells in spreadsheets have 9.6 other formulas depending on them. So imagine if one is wrong, that's affecting a ton of other spreadsheets. And here is a real-life work example. In April of 2012, large trading losses occurred at JP Morgan's chief investment office. So what they did was create a new model that was operated through a series of Excel spreadsheets. And these had to be completed manually by a process of copying and pasting data from one spreadsheet to another. So after the London whale trade blew up, their internal review group discovered that the model had not been automated and found several other errors, as a result of which the bank lost several billion with a B, dollars. So it's a reminder that no organization is immune from making errors in spreadsheets, even when the costs of doing so are so incredibly high. The next reason you should ditch your spreadsheets is that they are notoriously hard to keep up to date, especially when you have issues with version control. So once people are working on different versions at the same time, forget about it. Sometimes teams, especially at larger companies, as we have seen, even have to institute processes to have these spreadsheets updated and hand them off to different departments. So while this helps with managing version control, it definitely doesn't help with speed. And Excel spreadsheets tend to proliferate, so you do not know what is the real version of the truth or the most up-to-date version. And this is a case where Excel spreadsheets originally seem like a good solution, but they quickly fail the team. And the key here is to have a centralized online team workspace where people can go for a specific team project and see not only what's on their plate, but what's on everyone else's. And this increases team transparency, reduces the need to chase people down, and gives a dynamic history of what activity has taken place over the course of the project. Another issue with using Excel is that it's just not secure. Although you can set a password, a recent study indicated that only about 30% of spreadsheets are password protected. So using Excel for project management puts data at risk. It's too easy to delete a column of sales figures in error or lose the data that you need for budget talks. So spreadsheets can also be passed around freely or even emailed outside of the company to people who shouldn't be seeing the sensitive data. And what you need is a central place to keep documents and information, one with simple, easy to use administrative controls. It should be easy for authorized members to join, and just as easy to bring in, consultants and contractors so that they only see the information that's relevant to them. And finally, spreadsheets hamper productivity with time-consuming busy work. After all of your team members have had input, you need to consolidate that new information into the master. And not only is this process very time-consuming, but it's also prone to error. And as a project manager, your focus should be on deliverables and results, not on a simple administrative process that eats up your time. Managing the spreadsheet shouldn't be anyone's full-time job. And we've all seen project plans created in Excel by coloring in cells that represent days or weeks. And the trouble is that when the plan moves, and it will, there is a huge overhead to update those colored boxes. If you want to work out whether a task is open, closed, or overdue, you need a formula, and it's just not worth the time. Project management tools have all of that built out of the box. And with tools like Redbooth, making changes are easy, and you can check the status of your projects at a glance. And there are a lot of project management apps out there, and Redbooth is a fantastic choice because it makes project planning, monitoring progress, and collaborating with your team easy. So if you're using Excel right now to manage your projects, you can even upload Excel files right into Redbooth to automatically build out your workspaces and Gantt charts. So let's recap quickly what we've discussed today and why Excel doesn't work for project management and why you should be ditching your spreadsheets today if you haven't already. So number one, again, there's no team collaboration. It's difficult to track progress and keep monitoring what the status is for your projects. information isn't centralized. It's spread out over many different platforms and located in email and many other areas. You have inaccurate data that's prone to error. It's also hard to maintain. You oftentimes have to have several dedicated people to keep those up to date. It's not secure, and oftentimes, as we've seen, is not password protected. And it's labor intensive. So, your managers and project managers could be using that time focusing on the goals of your company instead of spending hours updating those spreadsheets. Great, so with that, I want to go ahead and open it up to questions. And my colleague Diana here is monitoring your questions online.
Great, thank you, Kim. So our first question is about Google Sheets, which is, we have someone saying that the discussion of collaboration here and the concerns about spreadsheet do apply for Excel, but in her experience, they do not apply to Google Sheets because those have excellent collaboration and comments.
True. Yeah. No, that's a great question. So the benefit of using a project management system, or the benefit of Google Sheets, let's say, is that yes, people can update them at the same time and that you can leave comments. So that element is positive, but you still can't really track projects effectively depending on the controls, and people can still delete info and introduce errors. And additionally, access controls mean that people, you still need to make a request to the owner to update information. So it's common, for example, when people are sharing a doc and you click on the link, it says you have to request access, which makes work take longer.
And I think just to add to that, we're big fans of Excel and we're big fans of Google Sheets as long as they're being used for their intended purposes. And I think what we found is that for project management, they're the great little part of when we're tracking some data, but they're not useful overall for managing the entire project just because there's so many components and so many people involved. At least that's been our experience and what we hear quite a bit from our users, but we do think Google Sheets is a great tool. So we have another question here. We have lots of questions.
Yeah, keep them coming.
Sure. So this listener says, our team has been using Smartsheet to track our projects. The most difficult part for us is to set up the Gantt chart with dependencies. What is it like to set up a Gantt chart in Redbooth?
Sure. Well, that's a great question, and it's very, very simple. So all you need to do is list, you can easily import or copy and paste a list of tasks inside a Redbooth workspace. You set a start and end date, and your Gantt sheet will be set up automatically. All you need to do is click on timeline view and you will get to see all those tasks in that timeline set up automatically in Redbooth. And you can also create dependencies between tasks so that one task, you'll know that one task needs to be completed before another one can start. So it is quite easy. And I'll provide more information at the end of the webinar of how you can set those up in Redbooth.
Great, and Kim, I'm gonna go ahead and answer this one. So we have a question from a listener. Can Google Sheet info be uploaded into Redbooth the way that Excel sheets can be auto-loaded into Redbooth? That is a great question, and the answer is sort of, which is to say, if you have your information right now in a Google Sheet, what you can most likely do is save that as in the same format as an Excel file and then upload that. And our help team, which is always reachable at support@redbooth.com, they can walk you through the steps you would need to do to convert from one format to another.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that. So again, with Redbooth, you can easily import your projects from spreadsheets, so adding your work is simple. We also include the ability to cut and paste. So if you have a to-do list, for example, you can quickly copy those and paste those into a task list inside of Redbooth.
So we've had a few different questions on this topic, so I'm going to consolidate them into one, which is listeners today are curious about the difference between Microsoft Project Management and Redbooth project management. So I can tell you here, we're experts on Redbooth, and we're not experts on Microsoft Project, and I can tell you what we hear from our customers, which is that Microsoft Project is fantastic for a very specific set of users. So the project management tools in an MS Project are very sophisticated, and there are cases where a professional project manager needs an extremely advanced and powerful set of tools to manage extremely large and complex projects.
Yeah. And I think that's the case because oftentimes you need a dedicated project manager just to manage that system. You need them to set up, it's highly customizable, and it requires a lot of time and effort to set that up to your team's workflow.
Right, so we know that there are some great use cases for it. What makes Redbooth different is Redbooth is intuitive, it's easy to use, and it is actually a complete platform. So it has task management capabilities, it has built-in chat, built-in video conferencing, and Redbooth is designed to be easy to roll out with your team of 5 or 50 or 500 people and have everyone be engaged. And with Redbooth, what we find is that most teams want everyone on their team to be sharing updates and contributing, as opposed to just a dedicated project manager kind of feeding information into proprietary software. So we're happy to talk about the differences with you more, but that's kind of an overview. Let's see.
Okay, we're just scrolling through. We'll probably just take one more question here. There's a lot, and then reach out to the rest of you personally.
Yes, let's see. Okay, so here's one more question, which is, I'm a project manager at a small agency, and I spend a few hours a day in project management spreadsheets, keeping everything up to date and checking in with people to get updates. If we switch to a project management platform, is my job going away? We do. I think that is a great question.
That is a great question.
Kim, I'm going to refer back
to
what you said of no one's job should be keeping the spreadsheet updated.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's not the most fulfilling part of your job. And what we find is that companies that are able to free up that time, the people in their organization that are already invested in keeping things on track, get to take process thinking to a higher level. They get to think about making templates for repeatable tasks. They get to create efficiencies within the organization, and that is not a euphemism for for getting rid of your job. It's freeing you up to do higher level work and deliver better results. So no, I don't think your position is going to be unnecessary, but I do think it will evolve in an exciting way.
Great. Thanks everyone for all those great questions. And like I said, we'll reach out to the ones that we didn't get to personally. Okay, so if you have any other questions about how to ditch your spreadsheets and get started with Redbooth, please visit our help center. And I'd recommend watching, we've got very short tutorials. A good one is how to import your projects, and that'll show you how you can take your spreadsheets and import them easily into Redbooth. And then you have more detailed help center articles of how to specifically import Excel files to Redbooth. And I hope this webinar has inspired you to take a good look at the risks and the costs of using spreadsheets to manage your projects, and to consider exploring alternatives that will make your project management more streamlined and effective. And again, here's the link to our help center. You can always email us at help@redbooth.com, or if you have specific questions, you can reach out to me, Kim@redbooth.com, and I'll do my best to answer your questions or refer you to someone on our support team. So thanks everyone for taking the time to spend with us today and learn a little bit more about how you can ditch your spreadsheets. So thanks and have a great day.